Hello, good afternoon, participants. Just to note that we will start by 1:10, and by then you would hear my voice. We'll start exactly at 1:10 p.m.
Recording in progress.
Hello, can you hear me? Yes, sorry about that. Again, welcome to Mr. Oludotubabayemi. I was a mini profile as I have it jotted here. As I was saying, yes, Mr. Oludotubabayemi is the principal partner at Clone House LLC, a Draper Hills fellow at Stanford University, and also he has raised over $2 million in for profit and for non-profit organizations in the last 10 years. This afternoon, he will be taking us again on how, as non-profits, we can access international grants. But before we listen to him, let me yield the floor to Mrs. Ibekwe, who is the CEO of Sterling One Foundation, to welcome us and to talk about giving.ng, after which we'll then go into the day session. Mrs. Ibekwe, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Oyebisi, and I would like to appreciate everyone that has taken time out of their busy schedule to be part of this webinar today. I'm trusting that it's going to be an awesome session, and we'll all have a thing or two to learn. And before we go into the webinar, I would like to quickly speak to us on the grants we have available at giving.ng, and these grants are for you also. Should I say major stakeholders? We have grants first and foremost, I'd like to introduce us for the benefit of those who have not known about Giving.ng. Giving.ng is Africa's first free crowdfunding platform, and that also gives grants on it also. And we're here for you. We serve nonprofit organizations, alumni associations, individuals, and registered organizations that would like to raise funds or not. Of course, I already mentioned that we have free services for you. You do not need to pay a dime, and every fund you raise on Giving.ng goes to your project. We do not take any charges of it. So I think it's fantastic. And then to make it more interesting, we actually give grants also. I'll quickly talk us through that and the benefits you have when you work with us. Once you register on the Giving.ng platform, you can raise funds locally and internationally. 1, 2, you can enjoy huge convenience accessing a network of donors across the globe. And you get the brand page and visibility. We have quite a number of NGOs on our platform already that have successfully raised grants, and some of them are listed on the screen. Onboarding on Giving.ng is pretty straightforward. I'll quickly just play this video for your benefit. So that's it on how you can onboard on Giving.ng. At the end of the program, after Mr. Dotto's session, we can take questions. So I've spoken to, this is what it looks like. You just register, you fill your profile information, you upload your documents, and the major documents to upload are your CAC certificate, valid means of identification, and your articles of incorporation. If you have additional documents, good. And if not, we're fine with this 3. And once you do that, your profile is approved, you can start a campaign, your course is approved, and you can share with your community. How do you access the grants? First, your project has to be in the health, education, food security, or renewable energy sectors. You should have up to 100 donors on your project. Due diligence checks will be done on you definitely for us to know who we're working with. You provide detailed regular reporting on your project, and then you can get to up to ₦1 million as grants from us. And then we have something new. If you're a member of the Nigeria network of NGOs, you don't have to have up to 100 donors on your project anymore. With 50 donors on your project, you can actually access our grants. So if you're a member of the Nigeria network of NGOs, this is something beautiful for you, and you can actually access our grants also. And like I mentioned, once your project is live, you share with your community, you communicate progress, you communicate impact, and you appreciate your community. And these are critical for effective crowdfunding. Now, those are the things I'd like to speak to as I welcome you to today's insightful workshop based on requests from you. And we would also provide communication support and brand visibility. We enhance your reputation, and we have quite a number of partners that can also support your project where it is needed. So at this point, I would like to hand over the virtual microphone to Mr. Oyebisi, and I'd like you to sit back, relax, and have a fantastic session, getting in-depth knowledge on how to access international grants. You already know how to access the Giving.ng grants. Thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you so much, Mrs. Ibekwe, as I take over the virtual microphone from you and then hand it over to Mr. Oludotun Babayemi, who would be taking us through how we can access international grants. Again, thank you for doing this with us again, and you have the mic.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Oyebisi, and also Mrs. Olakweju as well. And thank you everyone for joining this session. It's also a pleasure for small me to be speaking to every one of you, whichever way we want to look at it. So not to waste a whole lot of our time, I'll just go into the presentation and also make us understand one or two things that we tend to gain with this. So let me pull up the power slide and make sure everyone is actually seeing it. Great. So so ADBI today, which is, I mean, the time is so short, and I mean, this is something I'm keen about, always talking to civil society organizations on. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to tell us how to pre-position for grants. Then you should be able to understand the impact of your story, which is the story from your project, right? And also be able to explain to others what's important in a good proposal. From my understanding, this workshop is about access. So how do you access the grants? Yeah, if you want to know more about me, I put in my LinkedIn in here, so you can check me out on LinkedIn. So what I'll do is to quickly do a recap of part one, actually. So this is part two of part one. Then talk to us about some things to note about assessing international grants. Also make you understand your story, then why you need networking, collaboration, and how to do it. Then what's in a good proposal. Then I'll use some cases actually to show us what we need to look at in positioning ourselves to land a grant or get an award for our proposal. Before we continue, so this session, we are going to have different tasks. There will be different polls. And please, I'd like us to participate, because I think in that is when we can then have a very good, robust feedback and also have make it useful for every one of us. So before we get into things, I'll pull up a poll now so that we'll respond to that poll. So let me launch the poll so that we will respond to it. So the poll will stay for 1 minute, actually. So what was your NGO's annual revenue in your last financial year in US dollars? In US dollars. So if it's in Naira, you just divide it by maybe the current rate, 410 or so, then it gives you the USD amount. So we have 30 seconds, 31 seconds. Please continue. If you have not answered, please do answer this poll. What was your NGO's annual revenue in your last financial year in US dollars? This allows us to understand where we are and what kind of grant should we be looking at to actually assess. Thank you so much for everyone that is already responding. We will just have 30 seconds more and we will take this out and go into the flesh of things. So we just have 10 more seconds and we will be done. What was your NGO's annual revenue in your last financial year in US dollars? Just give an estimate. Perhaps you're not paying attention to that. So yes, so let's pause the poll. So yeah, that is the end of the poll. We've ended it already. 54% actually said that, oh, is the poll still going on? Oh, okay. So the poll just ended. So I can then share the results with everybody. So you can see that 54% out of all of us actually did between $1 to $20,000. 10% actually had none, no revenue. So what this tells us is that most of us that are in this session, we are actually somewhere at the seed stage, between seed and early stage. So we'll be asking for we'll be looking for, I'd say maybe 25,000 USD or 30,000 USD, although some peaked 10,000 to 50,000. So if you had 50,000, then you want to be requesting for like 52,000. But in general, I think a whole lot of us are at least at the early stage of our organization. So we can't necessarily ask more than 51,000 or $52,000 or $60,000. So one thing that does is that you need to understand your numbers. Is very important for you to be able to assess grants. You can see that I already saw that, oh, $50,000. The next grant you might be writing will be based on your budget. So, which means that most of the donors you might be speaking to will be looking at giving you, some give 30% of, so the assumption will be that your budget will be maybe 60,000. So they will be giving you, some might say they will give you 30%, some might say 20% of that, some might say 10% of that. So, but that is just in a way for us to know who and who is in the room. So yeah, we've done this already. Thank you for responding. In the last part, in part one, we talked about what a grant is, which is funds given to you, which will not be collected back, unlike loans, right? Then the grant ecosystem, what the people giving out grants, the bilateral organization, the multilateral organization. You can think about philanthropy organization, even individuals. So your families, your colleagues, your friends, they can give you that as well. We talked about types of grants and strategies. We want to flesh out strategies actually in this session. So these are some things that we need to take note of. So grants are not the only ways that you can add income to your NGO. Grants are not the only ways you can add income to your NGO. You can think about offering services, which is in form of consulting. Yes, there are NGOs that also deliver on contracts or apply for contracts with USAID, with UK aid. So you can think about that, like if you have a good team that consults in different areas, communications, M&E, and all that, they can go into offering services. They can rent outfits. Some people rent their space out. You can do cooperative agreements. And also there's now crowdsourced funding. And that is what Giving.ng is doing for you, providing you that template for you to use to secure more funds, for you to carry out the good work you've been doing. Because the hypothesis is that you're doing a great job, which I know that every one of you is doing, and which is needed in our country, in Africa, everywhere in the world. We need more civil society organizations that are changing things and changing the world for good. Also, it's important to know that the grant is not your own money. It is just meant for you to foster the mission of your NGO. So if you get a grant, it is meant to deliver on projects that actually fosters the mission of your NGO. It is not your own money. And this is where governance comes in, that you need to put in systems in place, like having your board, functional boards, having financial systems, accounting systems, the CEO not being the board chair, so there's a separation of duty and all that. So note that the grant is not your money. Also that you would need to be accountable, not only to your donors, which we have seen mostly as one of my last research showed, but also to the constituency which you work in. So if you're providing water facilities, if you're strengthening the capacity of women, or you are increasing the participation of young people, you should be able to be accountable to those beneficiaries. So, and lastly, if you are thinking about writing proposals, there will be a whole lot of proposals that are being rejected. That does not mean that you're not working hard enough. You're actually working hard. It is just that we need to learn from why we didn't get the last one, and then work smarter, right? For also be able to make the next grant. Let's see if we can take another poll from that. My poll is not showing at the moment. Okay, so there's a question on the screen. Does your NGO have a website? So you can type in the chat box, yes or no. Just type yes or no in the chat box. And I'll give us like 2 minutes for us to, oh, okay. I think the poll is, okay, so the poll is on. Please use the poll and answer yes or no. We'll see what the outcome of this would look like. So there's a poll currently. Does your NGO have a website? It's important for us to also have a feel of this, like getting to understand if actually we have a website for our organization. This is getting interesting, actually. Okay, thank you. Please, you can, so 66 of 66 already answered. Let's end the poll. Then let's share the results. So interesting, 73% actually said yes, 27% said no. Why is this interesting? By the way, to be sincere, we're not talking about Facebook or Twitter page or Instagram. We're talking about a real website itself. Why is this something that is important? So you need a story. Since a whole lot of us are at our early stage, I think one thing you need to think about, and I do tell civil society organizations or organizations that I consult with, that before we think about writing a grant, we should position ourselves to have a story of change. Like, oh, I've been in this community, there was no water before, and I did A, B, and C. And this was what the community did. And eventually they got water. Oh, in my community, like in this community, 80% of the households are being they are victims of gender-based violence. Then I did A, B, and C for 1 year. And we found out that, in the other year, in the year that followed, the gender-based violence actually reduced, owing to in contribution from the work that you did. So you need an organizational story as a first step. Even if you started today or you started last year, before you can access an international grant, is important that you are able to, yes, document what your NGO had done. Not necessarily, if you're starting, you might not even register. And I can tell you the story of one of the NGOs that I co-founded. Like our first grant, £10,000, we didn't have a registered organization, but what did we have? We have a story. We had a story of change that we were able to communicate. So you don't even need to register at first. So it was from the first £10,000 that we had to register an organization. So if you are just starting, I know that some of us, yes, we are at the early stage. So in the audience, we have a mix of seed stage, which is the first stage, like you just started, and we have early stage, maybe some people that have been able to gather $20,000, which might not be international grant, actually. Maybe it was something that you did, like mobilizing resources locally. So, but you need that story. It's very important. What has your NGO done? What's your NGO mission? But I think most importantly, have a compelling story. Might not necessarily be compelling, but that change must flow. Like, what is your input? What is the output? And what was the outcome? Your personal story is very important. So you as an individual that wants to seek grants, and I know that I'm speaking with an audience which might have maybe 5 core staff or just 3 core staff. You as the person starting the NGO, you need to have a compelling story. And I mean, what story do I mean? Like, you have done a whole lot of work, maybe volunteering with other well-established NGO. You have volunteered for several organizations. So you've learned, you've gone for trainings here and there. I mean, you can develop a website yourself. You can go on Twitter yourself. You can write at least proposals yourself. You have done A and B. So the supporters or partners, international partners that want to support you, take a look at these 2 things, which is very important. The next thing is, when you have that story, it's about 4 things that you need to, that is embedded in your story, right? That you need to think about. What do you want to say? Which is like, what's your impact, right? What is the impact? Which is one of the stories that I just said now. Oh, this community didn't have this, but I did A, B, and C. We did A, B, and C. The community did X, Y, Z. And this was the result, right? That is what to say. When to say it, I'd say, within every week, you need to be saying it. Within every week, you need to be saying that. Who do you say it to? Because you're seeking international grants, you should think about your potential donors. They are very important because it means that at some point, they will refer to those your stories. At some point, you might not need to write a grant before they email you and say that, oh, we're interested in the work that you're doing, and we think we can provide support for you. This story that I just said is one of the stories of the organizations that I was working with, that you already knew that, oh, my story is, they actually love my story, is impactful, and they want to support it. Thought leaders, you need to communicate to them. And I mean, people that are well experienced in the civil society organization, you need to communicate your story to them. And you know what this does, the thought leaders, is that, I call them thought leaders, but there might be people that are well experienced. Because at this stage, which you're between early stage and seed stage, what it means is that you're trying to get an advisory board, people that will advise you. You're trying to get a functional board. When I mean functional, a board that meets quarterly. So they would also be interested, because that's another work. You need to be thinking about that now. Like, who are the great people? Might not be greats in code, but who are the well-experienced people that I can start speaking to, either as a board or as an advisor, that are subject matters on key areas like finance, like proposal writing, like campaigns, like communications and all that, social media and all that. So then your beneficiaries should be seeing your result, right? Like what you're trying to achieve. Then how to say it, which is the reason why I asked us that question. So, but it's good. We have a good result, like 75% of us do have a website, right? But I can say it is not only for you to have a website. So you need to communicate it via your website. It should be the first thing we should be seeing, even if your website is just one pager. That story should be what you're communicating. Then newsletters, we found this very super useful. I have a story also of one of the organizations I've worked with that they just made sure they were communicating what they are doing every week to a mail list that have donors, actually. And before you know it, all they just said was, oh, we like the work that you're doing. We want to come and meet you because we're getting your story and we think that is something that can be of much value for the dollars we are going to put in. You can do a one-pager, which might be a brochure, which you want to give people, and your brochure can also be online as well. It could be printed that you can quickly give people. So this is important. Your story, what you put in your story, when to say it, who to say it to, and the medium you're going to use to communicate it. Remember, I did not go to writing proposals. I'm saying that this should be the first thing you might want to consider, actually, for you to land, establish your international grants. Based on that, can we, since you have picked that, oh, you have a website, right? Can anybody punch in their website? And let's do the anatomy of a website, of how you can position your website. So if you can put in the chat box a link, onelifeinitiative.org. That's the first website. And I'm going to thank you. They were the first one. So let's see if I can just do a quick anatomy of One Life. Thank you all for pushing in your websites. So, but I'll just do an anatomy of onelifeinitiative.org. Was the first person that posted. So let us see your website. Okay, so on your website, interesting, beautifully placed website. Welcome to One Life Initiative. You put what you did, what you're doing. Welcome to One Life Initiative. Can every other person see the, let me just be sure that people are seeing the website. Can we see the website? onelifeinitiative.org. So what drives us? Hurry up, recent news, our partners, good, so that people understand who you're working with. Actually, it's very good. Your reach in terms of numbers, which is the quantitative numbers, super good. Your recent events, super good. What drives us? Welcome to the initiative. What you do. So the only thing I didn't see on your website is that story. Even if it is just one story, like maybe you want to have a tab for stories of change, right? So instead of having recent event, news and events, or maybe you want to add a layer to recent news and events, might be good for you to add stories of change with that, because an average person uses like 30 seconds on your website and it's gone. So, and that is on your first page. It's important you put it on your first page. On your About Us, maybe it's hidden somewhere, I don't know, but I think it's important for you to think about that. That was what I wanted to look out for in your on your website. Is very, very important that your website communicates that story. In fact, if that will only be the first thing you see on your first page, that is pretty fine. The other thing I'm not seeing on your About Us, oh, good, you have your trustees already placed there, and maybe perhaps your staff, which is good. But on your first page, I think you should try as much as possible to communicate your impact. Like you can target success story or story of change, and that will be it. So let's go into back into our presentation. Thank you for sharing that. Super useful. So that is the anatomy of your website. There's so many things we can look at, but your website is important to take a look at. So let me go back to the presentation then. How to say it? Yes, we've talked about this, like in terms of your story. Let's go into something else. So your story is important. Now, let's quickly take a look at this. So it's day 3 of a civil society conference, and you found yourself sitting beside a prospective donor representative. What would you ask the representative if you have 1 minute to chat with the person? Please type your response in the chat box. Let us see what your thought process will be like. Like day 3, you just sat down beside maybe someone from the National Endowment for Democracy that provides grants, and you're just seated beside the person. What would you ask the person? Let's see. Please type and punch it in the chat box. Okay, great. Somebody said I will ask him when I can have a dinner with them for a chat and then exchange contacts. Please, can we get that? Can we get more in? I will ask him what his interest in life is. Can we get more in? So you're seated beside a prospective donor, right? At the 3rd day of a conference. I would like to know experience so far in Nigeria. I will ask him how and when we can meet. Thank you for bringing it in. Anthony said I will share our request for a contact in key thematic areas. David said he would ask for appointment to discuss with him. Alabi said I'll give a brief introduction of what his organization does and exchange contacts. I will tell him share my website. Abiodun says he will introduce myself, an organization, and exchange contact and email him same day. Busola said he will exchange pleasantries, introduce herself, an organization and what they do, and exchange business cards. Interesting. Cyrus said I will ask him for an appointment after a brief introduction. Someone said I'll request for the website of the person. Thank you, guys. These are super ways to engage. Thank you for responding. So let's get into things. Good. So in real life situation, this is what happens. Now, this is the second thing you need to think about. The first is your story. We're done with that and how to communicate it. The second is pre-positioning. We call it pre-positioning. So pre-positioning to receive grants, pre-positioning to get your proposal to maybe the final stage, right? And this normally happens all the time. Like, oh, we go to conferences, we meet with people, we meet with donors, we meet with other NGOs, and most times we might not be strategic actually when we're moving. And this is part of, some of you might have done networking or so. So we got, some of us are posted in the chat what I normally do. And I mean, what I'm sharing is what I've done that have worked in the past for me, and also experiences with other colleagues, like what has worked for them. There are other ways which you see outside, and I will encourage us to also use that as well. The best thing that I've noticed in recent times is, one thing that I would ask is, yes, just introduce myself, blah, 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 a one-liner of my organization, and just say, can we exchange emails? Emails, 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 emails. I can call it like 10 times. Make sure you get the email. And I like what somebody said, that you will email the person before the program ends. No, yeah, good. But I will email the person like 10 minutes afterwards. I've gotten the email that, oh, it was a pleasure meeting you, blah, blah, blah. And also that you enjoyed the conference and you like to explore further communications with him, and that your organization can be found here. So like put a link. You can see the connection between your website and this email. So with that, you've established the first set of relationship. We also like the fact that some people said, yes, they will ask for a meeting. Yes, it's good. But I think the first thing is to first get that contact. Then you can ask, oh, maybe can we chat or have a meeting afterwards or so. If that opportunity doesn't come, you already have an email to be able to do that. So that is very important. So let me tell you something about pre-positioning, which I found as a second way to position yourself to accessing international grants. So explore strategic collaboration with other experienced NGOs in country and in diaspora. So the story of the donor sitting beside you might actually be an NGO that is in diaspora. Establish contacts with them as well, especially if you have the same mission and vision. Because at some point, there's something we call consortium that normally submits proposal. You might get to that stage and they just invite you and say, oh, you're doing good work in Nigeria and we think we should co-submit proposal for this. And especially if you're at the early stage that you cannot meet with the requirements, it becomes easier for you. It means that, oh, that organization will subcontract you. So experienced NGOs in the country, I mean, there are NGOs that are already like 30 years, 20 years in the country. Try as much as possible. If you have the same mission and vision, and I mean, if you're working in the health sector and they are also working in the health sector, you should try and establish collaboration with them. It's very important because at this early stage that you're in, there are some grants you cannot access. except for extreme cases. Mostly, you cannot access some grants. Like you cannot access a grant. Oh, okay. Let me get back my, got this a bit. So
Hello, we can't hear you. Yeah, we lost him. Yes, please unmute.
okay. Sure. So your newsletter could be a way of, so in that email, you could also tell the prospective donor that, oh, can we add you to our newsletter, or can you just join our newsletter? So it's very important. What it means is that you're communicating weekly to the prospective donor. And you know, donors have a network. They have a network, and they keep sharing your story within themselves in terms of recommendation. That is the power of 5 times 10x that we normally talk about. So from one email to a larger pool of donors, knowing that, oh, we know there's this organization doing something different in Nigeria, and we think we should partner with them. Creates meeting opportunities with leaders. I've talked about this before. This is also very important. The connection between meeting them and then having a session or a meeting with them to discuss, oh, okay, how can I do X, Y, and Z? Because they are already experienced. And I'll keep emphasizing it on systems, how to create systems for your organization, because they've done it before. Is one of the greatest headache that one can have. They've done it before. They can guide you on, okay, it could all just be mere developing contracts for your workers, right? For your staff, having contracts, having a system in place, maybe like QuickBooks, or using an Excel template. Maybe they have that before, they can share with you. These are some of the reasons why you might have these people. And also they can be able to tell you like where your intervention is going, like what is happening in the space. You can have a discussion about that. So pre-positioning is very, very important before the phase we all know. So collaboration with experienced NGOs, look out for them. There's a whole lot of them, but I'll say something. They are also busy, but know how to use their time effectively. having one key person saying what you need directly, scheduling the meeting. Some things might not require meetings. It might just be email. You just exchange email and you get what you want. Networks with international donor is a great one. Having to know donors that are in your space. In part one, we actually shared a list of, and we're not going into that, a list of all donor agencies you can think about in the world. Yeah, it might not be comprehensive enough, but I think it might be useful for you. Let's get on. So, the third poll. Let us see if we can have the third poll up. So, great. So a donor organization receives 100,000 grant proposals. So they received 100,000 grant proposals. How many of those proposals do you think would end up being awarded? So use the poll. Let's see what we can get out of this. A donor organization, so it could be Mercado Foundation, could be Hewlett Packard Foundation. They've requested for grants and 100,000 grant proposals came in. You know that normally they always recruit reviewers to review all those proposals. That is how it happens, because I mean, you can't have that resources in the organization to look at 100,000 grants. So how many of those proposals do you think gets awarded, like gets into like getting the money they requested for, or maybe after negotiation, at least they got something out of it? Let's see what we think this might end up to be. So please use the poll to answer. We are looking for 112 to participate. We are now 112, 63 has participated already. So please punch the poll, pick one. Do you think is 90,000 out of the 100,000? Do you think it's 20,000 out of the 100,000? Do you think it's 10,000 out of it? Do you think it's 50,000 out of it? Do you think it's 70,000 out of it? Thank you for participating. If you have not participated, please punch the poll. Let us see our thoughts, what our thoughts are like. So when a donor gets 100,000 grant proposals, how many do we think gets awarded eventually? Getting super interesting. Okay, so in 10 seconds, we can end the poll. Great. Some people are already responding to what we have. So we can end the poll. Let's see the results. Yeah, results is being shared. So you see, this is funny, right? We think that only 10%, only 10% will get the award. So this is actually the situation of things with writing grants. And that is why we think that number one is for you to get your story right. Work on yourself and make sure that, you can deliver all the instruments that you need to actually start something and to the point of change. It doesn't necessarily need to be smooth, but be able to get a story. Are we still having, we already shared the result, right? So what this means is that, yeah, we've already said we might already get the answer, but let's see. So 10 to 20 out of every 100 gets awarded actually. And so we are right that, okay, maybe 10,000. So, and what I'll share with us, if you decided to go the way of grants, in part one, I told us that where do you get requests for grants? Just go to fundsforngos.org, fundsforngos.org. It was in part one. We stated it. It was on the slide in part one. You will keep getting the free version would even tell you when requests for proposals are entering. So you already know where to pull up grants, writing proposals or submitting a request for proposal. So, but to note, only 10 out of every 100, 10 to 20 out of every 100 gets awarded. So that is why your story matters, pre-positioning matters, so that you can at best get into the 10 to 20. Now, I'll share some tips with us in writing proposals, because this is not a writing proposal session, but is how you can access international grants. In fact, I can say that writing proposals, donors have made it easy because there are narratives already that they share with us on. They want us to be able to write good proposals. It is only that it is only few that can be able to get awarded. So number one, funders' priorities is very, very important. When I'm writing proposals, when I see a proposal, the first thing I first do is find what are the priorities of this donor. And we always find that in their strategic document. As a case, there is, let me just share. So the Open Society Initiative in West Africa, they have this strategy document. I hope we can all see it. It's still in draft. Yeah, I got it online. So, but I know that they will still work with this. So it's OSIWA 2021 to 2024 strategy. What it means is that they will not actually fund anything that is outside of these strategic goals. They've changed some things in how they also, so you can see what is new. You understand what they want to put their money into. Do they want to put money into social movement, or they want to put money into young people? Or so this is where you read and learn what they need to do. You could also see what will we do more of. So like what they need to do more. The academics, corporate space, they want to go into that and see how they can help. What are we discontinuing? So which is what they are not doing anymore. You understand that. And you understand their area of focus. Is the first thing that I will do, like understanding what are the priorities. We normally see it in strategic documents. Voice is a popular grant-making organization, a consortium of IVOS International, and I think Oxfam, then the government of the Netherlands. On their websites, you would always see what they are looking to fund. What do we wish to fund? What we won't fund. If your NGO is not working around what they fund, what they do not, what they fund, there's no need applying. Do not waste your time, your precious time to apply. So it's very important to look at what are the priorities. Most of the donor agencies, they always have a strategic plan, so you can go through it. It's very, very important and key for your organization. What are the kind of projects they have funded in the past? This is also very important. After you've done the strategic document, because what they funded in the past will allow you to know what type of organization they're funding. How much are they going to put into organization that is at early stage, maybe that just received $10,000 or new organization. You will find it also in the guideline that is being shared for the grant as well. You would also find it on their webpage. I always like looking at that. You will see, oh, past grants, past grantees. Go and do a research on them. And you know one thing you can do? You can then reach out, start positioning yourself with that past grantee that, oh, okay, perhaps you can collaborate, or perhaps you could get something to do together and apply for a new grant. Note how much money was given in the past year also. It's always written there, the grantees and how much was given. So it allows you to understand how much you'll be asking. Very, very important. Then the grant guidelines. Very, very key and important. Let us look at let's look at some of the cases that we have here. This is your organization. So I have a grant guideline that I can quickly pull up. So yes, this is a grant guideline by the National Endowment for Democracy, which funds several organizations working on democracy promotion around the world. Now, and this is why I will say that proposal writing might not be key. You can see they already gave you what you actually need inside the proposal, what you need. They put it in a template, like the project summary. What is the project summary? And this summary, do you know that is one of the most important part of this document when you put it together, which is like, what do you want to do with how many people and when you're going to do it and what the outcome will be. Whenever you see a project summary, that is what is being asked for. Most reviewers will not pass this project summary. Who you are, what you want to do. You want to do XYZ for ABC set of people, network, for you to achieve this particular outcome. That is what is in the project summary. Most times you can then flesh it out and be concise about it. You can see they said 1 to 2 paragraphs because most reviewers.
Sorry, Dotun, for interrupting. I think we're not seeing the screen of the document you're talking about now.
Oh, okay. Let me, so I need to do a new share. Let me do a new share. Where is it? Thank you for letting me know. So this is the document. I hope we can see it now. I hope we can see it.
No, I think maybe we need to, no, we can't see it yet. Maybe you need to take down the PowerPoint. Okay, yes, we can see it now.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Great. So they already have a guideline. It was pulled from their website, is on the website where they are requesting for proposal. And I'm using this because yes, they give small grants also, $10,000. Also Voice that I shared with us earlier also gives $10,000 as well. So, and I mean, 10,000 to 50,000. So like our category falls into this place. So the project summary is very important. Most of us reviewers will not pass that because what we're saying is this part articulates what you want to do, with which people, what are the activities, with how many people, and what would be the outcome. Very, very important. Then you then come to project background, which you can take from research. What is your own organizational background? So like your organization, what do you do? And all that within your organization. Then objectives, activities, evaluation plan. This can take, this alone can take like 3 weeks if we're going to go into this. So Clones House actually have a course based on this that we offer civil society organizations, basic monitoring and evaluation. And this is what is actually a core part of proposal writing. right? Knowing your objective, knowing your activities, knowing your evaluation plan, indicators, and all that. Then you have your activities, the evaluation plan, assessments, what are your other sources of funding, like the grants you've gotten before, because it's highly likely they will ask them, like, how did you perform? Organization reference, who are the key people? You see, this is where thought leaders you should meet are important, or other organizations that have received their grant before. Very, very important, so that they can reference you. Your board members, this is where governance comes into play again. Very, very important and key. You need to have a board structure. Yes, I know at the early stage, you just have, I mean, with Corporate Affairs Commission, yes, you register and all that. But remember that I said our organization, one of the organizations that I work with was not registered before he got a grant. But it was proposed that, oh, with that grant, then we start doing things, right? So your board members are very important. Try and start thinking about how to put together a board, because donors recognize them as those that create oversight or that does oversight on the organization, and that they are the ones that own. Nobody owns an NGO, but they are the ones that supervises the NGO, provides oversight for their own money that is coming into your organization. Your project budget, something you need to look out for in terms of budgeting. I said something when we started. If your revenue last year was just $50,000, your total annual revenue, you should not be asking for a $150,000 this year, because the thinking is that, well, except if you have a strong case, but the idea is that you might not do more than 3% of what you did last year. So maybe it turns into 60,000 this year. So you are asking almost something closer to last year. This is very important. I've made this mistake when I was starting, and this caused a whole lot of back and forth with donors. Like, oh, why are you asking for? This was what you got last year. So your budget should be within this range, and not you thinking about doubling or tripling your budget at this time. Salaries, allowances, and all that. I mean, at the back, at the end of this presentation, I actually shared 8 different proposals, winning proposals with us. So you can take a look at it and make use of it. Let me go back to our slide. This is all what I wanted to show us. So let me just go back to our slide. Please, are we on the slide back? Can we all see the slide?
Not yet.
Okay, so I need to, let me stop the share of that one. Then I proposal tips so that I can reshare this. So yeah, I mean, that is how you will know that even international partners wants us to be able to write good proposal. The National Endowment for Democracy guideline that I just showed now has given us a template. Also, they have a budget template. Most of them do have these templates for us to put things in. But the truth about it is that only 10 to 20% still get it. 60% of those that applied would not make it because of these tips that I just gave us. That is also another truth about this. So I think there are cases also that I've used in this. You can also explore. In summary, let me summarize what we have done. I have a stereo of change. Availability thinking is very good. And that is what you're doing with your impact story. Knowing like what will be the end when I start this intervention. networking and collaborating, learning from organizations that are already established, and also collaborate networking with international partners. Start establishing governance systems early, which is your board, your financial systems. Know your numbers. That was what we first did at the first task. Like, what is your annual revenue? How much am I putting in? Write great proposals and address strictly to the guidelines. You can do it. You can get international grants, and I don't think there's anything stopping you for that. There are references, and I mean, if you want to reach out to us, that is our email. You need some more help. We have a community of practice. You can join Clones House as well. And we'll be happy to provide some help, tips, and guides for you. Let me pause there because it seems, so on that note, thank you so much for listening. I look forward to some of our questions. I know I must have exhausted past my time already, but like I said, 1 hour, 30 minutes, 2 hours, 3 hours is not actually enough, but I hope that this has been super useful for us. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Babayemi, and I totally agree with you. These are courses you take for like 1 month, from the networking to the storytelling to issues around the website up until prepositioning yourself, governance issues, and also networking and all of those bits. But it's been very wonderful listening to you, and I do know that colleagues on the call would have some questions. So this is how we're going to roll. We will roll. If you have any question, please type it out in the Q&A box. This way we're able to manage the time very well. And also Mr. Babayemi can also move through some of those questions, and he will be able to provide some context to that. So keep your questions coming. Again, don't forget many of the things he said. Make sure you tell your story. I like the fact that he used an organization's website as to do an anatomy of the website. Yes, storytelling on your first page. So if you don't have a website, please ensure that you have one. One person is saying, please don't forget to share the 8 proposal samples with us. Yes, that's very important. Again, he mentioned your governance, very much important to your board meetings, the oversight that your board provide for your organization as owners in trust. Then how you are also attending conferences and you're doing your networking, emails. Ensure that you have the contact of that big player in the sector. I like his idea around thought leadership also. So as you have heard this now, you will now see that fundraising is not something you just wake up and you say you want to do today. You have to put some thought behind that. So please keep your questions coming. We're happy to take the questions now. Can you please type them into the Q&A box so that he can scroll through them. Someone is asking, will you be giving us handouts via email? I will check with giving.ng to see whether this is possible. But I'm sure we can work around you getting a copy of the videos. It's so good if you don't also have questions. That means Mr. Babayemi has done so well, and we can all. Yeah, someone is asking, I'm just starting a mini NGO on juvenile justice. How can I reach out to donors without any subsystem project? Sorry, I joined the webinar late. Please always join early enough so that you can. Yes, please. How can this person just starting a mini NGO? I don't know what a mini NGO means, but again, you want to speak to that, Mr. Babayemi?
Yeah, thank you so much. So it says anonymous attendee. Yeah, I mean, you know, donors are not necessarily for finance. In fact, they are not necessarily for only providing finance to you. I like donors that, so there's the financial part, there's the intelligence part, there's the human capacity part. I like donors that focus on these three areas. So not necessarily for funding, for the financial part of things. There are some that does it, these three for your organization. So I'd say that, yes, you can look for them with donors funds, juvenile justice. I think maybe you'll be thinking about rule of law, those that focuses on rule of law, which I think maybe Open Society Initiative does, but I think I've told us that, yeah, we can have a list. Remember at part one, we shared a list of a whole bunch of NGOs that international partners and donors that can fund your work. So maybe you want to look at that. Look at the one that is that is working around rule of law, social justice, and find every way to be where they are. So that is the thing. Be where they are so that you can meet them, or they have their websites, but I'd like establishing meeting with them, but they have a website. You can just send them an email on their website. But I think what you need mostly is getting one person that can advise you on how to proceed with your project. Might not necessarily be for funding, because at the start, you need to do the work to get a story. Start the work and get a story. I think that would answer your your question. You can use their email. They respond to emails actually. So yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. I hope that answers your question, our anonymous attendee. Someone is saying, thank you, Mr. Babayemi, for the wonderful presentation. I like the point mentioned that the grant is not yours. Please, I think there should be more awareness on the fact that grants are for the specific projects requested. How do we ensure that is done, especially in Nigeria?
That's a good question. Anyways, yeah, it's hard to do, but it can be done. I think so. It's two ways, and I think it's by us saying this all around. Like, if we are NGOs that are holding government accountable, we also must be accountable as well, because the money is not for us. Yes, there's ignorance, but when we know, when we pass this on to founders, co-founders, people on the board, for them to know, then I think this awareness can go around and everybody can know. And I mean, that is on the part of the person that owns the grant. On the part of the donor, you know, I mean, due diligence is one thing that is being done. And I know some donors that will not fund you again if you misappropriate their funds. Yeah, I mean, during my past research, I've heard stories from donors on how they had to stop funding an organization because the money was just used to do some other things and not the work. So, but I think there's something we call self-governance. Me, you, everybody requesting for grants, we should just know that, oh, this is not meant for us. It's meant to foster our mission, and we can do that. And I mean, it's about ignorance. And that is why you see some people, some staff, I mean, they get well paid for their salary. And I got this from a donor that told me that, oh, you know, because we don't want people to think like, oh, it is their money. We will accept their salary to be at some certain high level. So you know that, oh, that is your salary that is being paid you to do the great work that you're doing. But every other part of the funds goes into mainly the project, and you don't take it out for other things that is not meant for. So I just stop there on that question. I hope I've been able to answer your question, Ladi. Thank you for that.
Okay, good. Someone is asking, can giving.ng organization or resource person share come in? A question just came in. Oh, did this person delete it or was it moved? Okay, your question has been pulled off. So let me ask you this from Abu Sifam Ayub. We've done a lot through the support of friends and family since 2018 to date. Can that still be considered a seed stage, Secondly, can my 1-year work plan and budget be sent out as a proposal with the detail of every activity in it? Thank you for the nice presentation.
So thank you, Abu Sufyan. Yeah, some sort of question. So in terms of seed stage, so the categories that I gave is in terms of the revenue that your organization have. So for example, if your friends and families have been supporting you since 2018, and they've been able to support you to a stage of 50,000, over 100,000 USD, and you have been able to create a system, governance system, accounting systems, and all that, then you are off this seed stage without getting grants from international donors. So, but if your friends and families have only been able to give you funds, which is just around $10,000 or not even up to that, and you still do not have a proper system in place, like your governing board meeting, if it is only because at seed stage, maybe once in a year, or you don't have a proper accounting system for the monies that your friends and families are providing for you, we'll consider you as a seed stage. 1-year work plan and budget be sent out as proposal with the detail. Well, you know, I already, one thing to note is that there are different kinds of proposals, right? Depending on who wants to receive the proposal. So they will definitely tell you what they need, right? So except if you're sending, there's something we call unsolicited proposal, which is that, oh, we didn't solicit, we didn't request for the international, we didn't request for any proposal, but you can send in as much as you can. We would look at it and all that. But I think for them not to have much of a headache, they've already, and that is why they provide all those guidelines, templates, and all that. So your work plan or your budgets can be part of a proposal, and you can send it out as, yeah, all this are actually what is included in a proposal. So it's not like, who am I sending it to? What are they requesting me to submit? Is this how they want me to submit it? And that can answer your question. Thank you, Ayub.
Thank you very much, Mr. Babayemi. So we have a question from Abiodun Adewibi. How do we pay salaries and compensate for people's time when most donors will tell you they don't fund salaries?
Good question, Abiodun. So, so donors fund, so it's either is a core cost or a project cost. So core funding, which is core costs, means monies that is used in paying salaries, monies that is using in paying your rents, monies that is used in paying your local travels, beverages in the office and all that. While the project costs is those that are directly related to the projects, printing of information and education materials, traveling into communities, paying for hotels to bring in beneficiaries and all that. Those are projects. So what you're saying is that, yes, most donors will tell you they don't fund that core cost, but they fund project. You are absolutely right and correct that most would rather want to fund that main project. But I mean, there's now the realization, well, maybe to let me limit it to those that I know. In the last 10 years, there has been gradual shifts from only projects funding now to core cost funding. They've moved, some have moved from 10% to 20%, and some to 30%. But I think I've seen 20% as, so they will say that, oh, out of your whole total budget, we allow you to use 20% to pay salaries, office rents, buy computers in your office. So that is where we are. Also, I think that what most people will do if a donor says, oh, I can't fund your salaries or so, is to then allocate this, how you actually allocate those time that your main staff are using to the project. So they become a project manager, an assistant project manager, they become the project finance officer, so that that funding is directly related to that project. That's how some people do it. So to answer your question is correct, but there's been a shift. And also as an organization, you need to start thinking about that. Like, oh, am I receiving a whole lot of project funding that does not fund my own project? Or start thinking about how do I fund the core part of my project? So some people would turn to services, some people would turn to renting things and other things to fund that. And you can also have that conversation with your donor, like what percentage can you also give to your staff and cost staff and equipment and supplies or rents for the office. I think that might be a way to go with that. Thank you, Abiodun.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dotun. So we have tried to ensure that this session provided as much depth as possible and to respond to all the questions. I think we have just 2 more questions, but we're looking to be done in the next 5 minutes. There's a question from Mr. Charles Edeki that I have put in the chat group. He has put it there for the benefit of everyone. So please, we can just read it up on the chat group now. Then we can, Jonah Akufai is asking if Giving.ng or the organization can share sample governance and policy documents that civil society organizations can adapt for their organization. Mr. Dotun, can you share with us any link that has sample governance and policy documents?
Yeah, absolutely. So in fact, Clones House has this bunch of, but it is locked somewhere. But I mean, we're happy to share it within the slide. Also, and I mean, that is majorly adapted for Nigerian civil society organization. So you have different policies, even the one governing the board itself, the one governing the management, travel policies and all that. There's also, you should try and look at, if you can just put Mango UK NGO on your Google search. Mango, which is a series of consortium of NGOs in the UK, they've provided this robust policy document, governance, finance, and all that, and it's actually on their website, and you can see.
That's wango.uk, sir, right?
Yeah, I can't figure out if it is mango.uk. They changed their name, so but on Google search you can still see it if you just put Mango UK. Yeah, MANGO UK, and maybe put NGO so that it doesn't bring Mango that does fashion outfits and all that. So you can think about that. Also, you can go to humentum.com. So Humentum actually, so I think Mango changed to Humentum. Humentum, so that is the link between them. So on humentum.com, you can also find resources on finance, governance, and all that that you can develop for your organization. And also, I mean, Clones House is also happy to share some of this finance, some of these governance documents that we've provided as a template for several NGOs also as well. Yeah.
So thank you very much, Mr. Dotun. And I think that is all for now. That's all for now. We'd like to say thank you. Okay. Okay, so you want to know, Udrag James wants to know how each person in this state will get access to this webinar. All you have to do is follow at giving.ng on Instagram, or on LinkedIn, on Facebook. You will definitely know when next we're having the next webinar for Udrag James and every other person in the room who wants to know the next time we're having this session On that note, I would like to say thank you very much, Mr. Dotson. This has been a very insightful session. The last thing I'd like to just 30 seconds. Margaret Okoro is asking if it's okay for an NGO to advertise their projects for sponsorship. I think they can. I just need your alignment, Mr. Dotson.
Yeah, absolutely. Advertise to be funded. If that is the case, and in fact, I didn't mention this, that, profit business, when they become big, for you to know they have arrived, it is when they become a unicorn, like being listed on a stock exchange. Now, for NGOs, it is when individuals can pay 1 naira to the work that you do. Like, we have 200 million people in Nigeria. If 100 million people, half of them can be contributing to the work that you're doing, I mean, you've gotten to unicorn. That is what it means. Like, you don't rely on grants and every other thing. So it means that people are appreciating themselves. They can bring 1 naira and put it into the work that you do. And I think you can advertise for that, for people to then put in more money for the work that you do.
Okay. So at this juncture, I would like to say thank you very much, Mr. Dotson. This has been a very insightful session, and I am sure everybody that has stayed on so far has definitely learned a thing or two. At this point, I would like to hand over, I would like to just mention on behalf of Giving.ng, would like to say thank you everyone that has joined us for this session. Just remember, you can follow us on social media to know when next we are having this insightful and learning session to build our capacity in the nonprofit sector. And like I mentioned before, we have the Giving.ng grants available for you. All you have to do today is to register on www.giving.ng. The 3 documents that you need to register as a registered organization is just your means of identification, valid means of identification, your CEC certificate, and your articles of incorporation. And yes, we are glad to support your project. At this juncture, Mr. Oyebisi, I want to say thank you so much also for your support for this webinar, and I hand over the virtual mic to you.
Yes, and just to say that if you need any policy document or any information, just get on the NGO website and download the Nonprofit Operational Manual. It gives you all of the policies and templates you need for you to run your organization effectively based on the regulatory requirements that we have in the country. And if you have questions, please just jump on the email, do tripleng@tripleng.org. One of my colleagues will be happy to pick up your questions and answer them. Our website is www.tripleng.org, that's where you can download the operational manual. And it has all board documents, even organizational budgets, and all of those bits that you probably would need. Having said that, let me thank Mr. Babayemi and thank Giving.ng under the leadership of Mrs. Ibekwe and also Mrs. Alima Baba. Let me thank you all for doing this with us again. I hope that the next topic that we'll be working on will be this exciting also. We've all learned a lot, but again, don't forget, tell your story, make sure you have a website, get your governance right, network, and also ensure that you pre-position your organization. I wish you all the best for today. And keep winning, like Mr. Babayemi would say. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.